Yeah, so, Callum, a Saucerful Secrets album. Your overall thoughts?
I thought it was pretty poggers, a pretty banging album, I would say.
Yeah.
A lot of great songs. I think all of them had the uniqueness to them as per Pink Floyd tradition. I think, yeah, I really liked that album. I thought it was a proper, like, consistently good quality album. I think this album was incredibly consistent of great quality. The Long Moon was great atmosphere, great sort of build up of the horror but into uplifting choir. I really dug that. Some of the guitar riffs were just, in some of these songs were, ooh, chef's kiss. They were absolutely bang on, and yeah, it was just I think this album was great. It's just, whew, it's gonna be hard to top this one, but I imagine the ability of these guys probably have it in them to do it.
You know what's interesting is this is the album in their discography that charted the lowest and got the least sales, which is really interesting. Because for me personally, this is actually one of my favorite Pink Floyd albums. I think all 7 songs are top tier. I think the storytelling in it is incredible. I think the sound design is incredible. I think the fact that it has all 5 members is really special. I think the variety is fucking incredible. I like how it showcases the best of Sid, David, Roger, Rick, and Nick. You know, they all get time to shine. They all sing on this album, and it's just, yeah, again another brilliant bit of Pink Floyd. And yeah, I just adore it. I adore this album to bits.
As I said at the end of the first album recording, I said that this was going to be a major step up and pivotal for the future of Pink Floyd, and I think it's clear why. Just from where it begins with Let There Be More Light becoming one of their most iconic songs, and how it progresses into even more topics they never touched before, or new concepts that they've never done before. It's a more experimental album than even the first, I'd say, because you got, for example, certain band members playing together that never played together in that shape before, where you got new instruments being used. I really enjoy it. I really love this album. It's a very worthy send-off to Barrett, despite him not getting as much as I would like. But yeah, I love it.
It was fantastic. It really surpassed my expectations, I guess, for it. Because yeah, like Pink Floyd expected it to be good, but it was basically every song is like a song that I could just put on and listen to over and over and not get tired of, which is not something I can say for a lot of bands. It's just songs are very unique and they have their own flavor, but still, you know, feeling their own kind of Pink Floyd vibe. So yeah, I don't know, I really appreciated it, and I loved the way Sid Barrett said like goodbye to the band. Even though it's, you know, I guess very bittersweet or maybe just bitter. But I really like it. I think it's a very good song.
I think the sweet side of it is David making his first big impact. Like, I like how the album starts with David's first ever guitar solo and the album ends with Sid's goodbye. I think that's a really fitting bit of storytelling, because obviously David was on the last single that we listened to, but with, like, you know, It Would Be So Nice, he's not really there much of it, and with Julia Dream he does sing, but he doesn't get to have his iconic guitar riff yet. Yep. And with Let There Be More Light, we finally got that. We finally got what David Gilmour was most known for. So to have the album begin with This Is the New Direction, and for the album to end with Goodbye to the Past, I think is a really nice way to do it.
Yes.
Whether intentional or not. And that's what makes it bittersweet, I think.
Yeah, like the storytelling ability of Pink Floyd in this album especially unrivaled. Well, I guess Death by Rock and Roll by Pretty Reckless kind of does have that kind of same vibe, which I love. But other than that, it's like some of the best like storytelling just I heard of, just lyrics and
I mean,
instrumentals.
It
fantastic.
competes with it for me. It competes with some of their more famous stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, Ted, your overall thoughts on this album?
Seems like it was very influential for the band and where they go in the future and what sort of decisions they make and how they want to go about things, and it's full of just downright bangers in that. And plus, of course, has Sid saying basically goodbye or however or whatever overall feelings he had left towards the band when he left. So yeah, pretty full package, which sets up where they're going in the future. Now, and also just still retains all the Pink Floyd sort of vibes that they've had so far.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You can definitely feel little bits in there. You can hear other albums later on just quietly placed in this one, I find, which is really nice. But it's also got the same psychedelic, stuff that Piper had. So this for me is kind of like a meeting of both worlds. It's kind of a meeting of Sid's Floyd with also Dark Side era Floyd, and I love that. Source of Secrets is fucking incredible. One of my favorite Pink Floyd albums. Every song is great. Like what you said, it's gonna be hard to top this because it's fucking almost spotless. I also think that for a long time this was by far their most underrated album because of it not charting, and I think because when it came out at the time, word had got out that Sid had left the band, and I think the Sid bandwagon kind of dropped off, which is probably why it didn't sell as well, and also because of some of the production issues that came with the final mix. But I think ever since the 2011 remaster that they did, this has had a massive reappraisal. I think people are starting to realize how incredible this album actually is and how influential it is on their music. Definitely helped by the fact that Nick Mason always talks about how this is his favorite Pink Floyd album play, and named his band after it. Now, the next chapter, Callum, is a very interesting one. Now that Sid has finally departed, we finally move into a new direction for Pink Floyd, and the next time we will have a few singles, a few tracks that are, from certain recording sessions and whatnot. But mainly, the next album that we're going to be listening to is actually a film soundtrack. It's not your traditional music album. This is going to be a soundtrack to a film called More, which is by, I think her name's Barbara Schroeder. So essentially, the director of that film had obviously must have heard Piper and Saucerful, and decided to bring Pink Floyd on to be to do the soundtrack for her film, which will be very interesting. It's going to be a very different take because of that, because it's now, rather than them making music for themselves, it's going to be them making music for a film. And obviously all of us here have experience in talking about film and TV and score and all that. So yeah, Callum, your sort of anticipations for the soundtrack to the film More.
I wasn't expecting something like that, so I'm very interested to see what we have on offer for that. But yeah, that's going to be something a bit different. So I'm actually kind of intrigued by that. So yeah, that could be very intriguing.
Yeah, I'm very looking forward to you hearing it, because I think you might be a bit surprised that some of the sound in it is quite different from all the stuff you've heard before. I mean, to be fair, as we've discussed, every Pink Floyd song seems to be different. But with this next album, it definitely is much more the kind of music that David Gilmour was doing at the time, which is very different from Sid's style. So conceptually, it's going to be a very different take. For that reason, I'm very much looking forward to you listening to the soundtrack, because it's and also the fact that they have to they have directions from a film director on the kind of tone that she wants for the film. So they're going to be mixing it up a bit in that regard, and that they have to accompany a story rather than tell their own. Yeah, and I think for that, it's a very interesting record for Pink Floyd. Sky, any anticipations for the soundtrack for the film More?
Yeah, I didn't know was a soundtrack the next one we're going to listen to. Considering their ability to make like just banging instrumentals, even, and just their storytelling ability. I have high hopes for it, I guess.
Yeah, yeah, you're right in saying that the next record has a lot of instrumental on it because it's score. Some of it's score, some of it's music.
The instrumentals I've heard from him have been pretty poggers so far, so I'm pretty sure a whole album of it for a film soundtrack should be pretty interesting. Yeah, pretty hyped for that.
Yep. And also interesting to see Pink Floyd with no Sid contribution whatsoever. They now have to find their own direction and their own ground. It's also the secret. It's obviously Sid's not on all of it, but his kind of concept of what Pink Floyd is still there for a lot of the music. With the next one, now it's going to be start from scratch without Sid. You know, see what you can do.
I'm very excited for this one. I prefer when they have full creativity, so this won't be quite high up there compared to other albums.
Mm-hmm.
But it's still nonetheless a very good album, and it will tell the others a lot about what Pink Floyd intends to do, and how it gives you an insight of what's going to happen once the album after, when they have creative freedom.
Yeah, I definitely think the next album shows a very different side of Pink Floyd to what this one did. Instead of constructing their hues, I guess you could say, like HUE, in the sense of like this album, then the next album, and arguably the one after that, all kind of show a very different side of them, and then sort of like building all the blocks together. And like you say, yeah, it's because it's not them with full creative control. I wouldn't say it's one of their peaks, but I still think that it's very interesting to listen to, and it's one that I do listen to happily. So it will be an interesting side step, I guess you could say, because it's not a traditional album, it's a soundtrack. And it'll be interesting to see. I mean, let's be honest, imagine having the privilege of Pink Floyd scoring your film. Like that's just a fucking, you know, imagine having that. Imagine being that lucky. Have Pink Floyd do the soundtrack to your film.
Yeah, that's the dream.
We will see you all next time for more.
Boy.
Piss off.
Wow.